Welcome to McNulty's Pub, also known as McNulty's Book Corral. Hang on a second. Got to test this out, you know. Boy, lemonade's great in the morning, isn't it? So, anyways, we're back from the cabin, and for this episode, I'm doing a book haul. I went to Schaumburg, Illinois. I went to a couple of stores. I was looking for model paint, actually, and what I found was a secondhand bookstore. And I came away with a really interesting stack of books. So let's take a look. Inland Passage by George Harmon Cox. He was a very popular mystery writer in the 1940s, and this is a really nice Dell edition. Really good quality. I paid less than $2 for this. So George Harmon Cox is a mystery author I'm familiar with, but I've never read any of his stuff, and I like this era. Hey, you know, there's a lot out there, so I'm going to read this, and if I like it, I'll get back to you. Look at the beautiful cover. I love the romantic mystery slant to this. Really fun-looking book. And let's hope it is. I'm sure it is. He was very popular, I know, during his life when he published one of America's Forgotten Writers. This is why vintage paperbacks are so much fun to track down. I found another Dell for under $2. And this one, I've covered Brett Halliday before. This is a Michael Shane mystery, Blood on the Stars. And I think it's a beautiful edition. And I don't have this edition, so I bought it. And look at how the condition of this. It's just a really nice, for under $2. So you can find this stuff if you look around. A Dell paperback, late 40s, early 50s. One of the Michael Shane mysteries, Blood on the Stars by Brett Halliday. I think I covered him in my episode on mystery books and suspense books. If I didn't, there he is. All right. Then I found some really interesting Westerns. So this is by William Hobson, and this is a Masked Rider reprint. So the Masked Rider was a pulp fiction character in the 40s and so forth. I think 30s and 40s. And, you know, it was popular stuff back then. And later on, some of this stuff was reprinted in paperback. This is a 1968 paperback reprinting one of the pulp stories. I don't have a lot of these paperbacks from William Hobson's Masked Rider series. And this is called Boomtown Guns. And it was in good condition, again, under $2, actually. $1.98 this was tagged. It's just incredible. The Masked Rider was not my favorite pulp fiction character. It's currently in public domain. Airship 27 is doing Masked Rider stories. I have a story in their latest Masked Rider anthology. My story is a Wyatt Earp, Untold Tale of Wyatt Earp. It's not a Masked Rider story. The others are. So just FYI, interesting connections there. Boomtown Guns. I also found, and I did an episode on Jonas Ward previously, the Buchanan books. I found 3 Buchanan books in beautiful shape. Buchanan's Gamble, really nice, interesting. Again, I paid $1.98 for these. I found Buchanan's Treasure, Texas Treasure by Jonas Ward. I have an episode on him, so you can find that. Really good. And then I found Get Buchanan by Jonas Ward. Really nice, good condition copies for $1.98. All right, so I collect the Jonas Ward Buchanan paperbacks. I also found a Peter Saxon Guardians novel. Peter Saxon was a house name, a pen name. Several authors are credited with working on this series. Wilfred McNeely was one of them, I think. And you can look that up on my previous episode, one of the horror episodes where I talked about the Peter Saxon books. I collect Peter Saxon books, even though it was a house name and multiple authors worked on it. There's a lot to be said for these. I might go into more depth later with this, but The Guardians was a popular supernatural series, and this is in better shape than the copy I already own, so I bought it, $1.98. All right, then finally, book haul, right? I found 2 hardcovers for $10 each. These books are 100 years old, and they're Stuart Edward White. I have an episode devoted to Stuart Edward White, so if you haven't watched it, you might want to go look at that. I found Arizona Nights, which is really a low-grade copy for $10, though. I'll take it. Now, this is N.C. Wyeth did the cover. N.C. Wyeth was a famous artist. If you're not familiar with him, you can Google that. He also did the interior illustrations. And This is the way books were produced 100 years ago, and we're seeing again in modern times. We're seeing a lot of publishers getting away from the really bland, photoshopped covers and doing more quality work as far as the binding and the illustrations and the cover paintings and so forth. So there is a trend going back to this style of illustration. This book would have had a dust jacket which matched exactly this N.C. Wyeth cover. It's a pretty solid reading copy for $10. Stuart Edward White is one of the former best-selling American authors who's pretty much forgotten. I have the episode. Watch that episode I did about him. Hopefully you'll learn something and maybe it'll spark your interest in looking at him. Interesting guy. So I found 2 by him. Arizona Nights, and then On Tiptoe, which has kind of a blander cover. This is a later. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th edition. And so I bought these immediately. When I see Stuart Edward White in reasonable condition, I buy them, as I've mentioned to you before. He is one of those authors from the turn of the century, First World War era in American literature history that I purchase. I collect. I look for these. I love reading him. He's a really interesting writer, and you've heard his name recently in a recent episode when I was up in Minocqua. I went to that antique shop, and that was just a few weeks ago that episode aired, and I found a Stuart Edward White. Well, I just found 2 more here in Illinois. So that's my book haul for my return to Illinois, and I hope that this inspires you to look at some different types of books to add to your collection. Fill that blank bookshelf with some interesting things to read. Books are your friends. And until next time, stay well, stay happy, feed your brain, and read a book.
Música